Hello and welcome to Beach View, our podcast about different things and/or stuff.
Hello, welcome. So today we decided to mix it up a little and read a short story in the detective genre. And this time we did The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, I guess that's a series. And then the story we read is The Adventure of the Engineer's Thumb.
Yes, which is an 1892 short story written by Arthur Conan Doyle.
Dang, that's a long time ago.
Yep, very famous character Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
You know, the quintessential detective, I guess.
Yeah, so I always enjoy detective genre, and I like these short stories because, well, I can't say I like these short stories. I've only read like one or two in the past. But I like short stories like this because they're just like really quick and easily digestible, basically. But I know I've read some of this, like maybe when I was in school. I don't know, like some of the titles sounded familiar. But I just wasn't sure if I actually read some of these stories or not before.
Yeah, I read at least one in school, and I'm familiar with Sherlock Holmes from adaptations, as I'm sure a lot of people are.
Yeah.
There's been several over the years.
Same. Yeah, so we just kind of, randomly picked one, I guess, right?
Yeah, which, apparently we can only read short stories from the 19th century.
So. Yeah. Apparently, yeah, but I like, since we talked about the detective genre before, like, kind of going back to like one of the very well-known series that, I always enjoy, like things that I don't normally read. Like, let's get into it and see what it's all about,
Yeah. And what'd you think of this story in particular?
So I thought the story was entertaining, but it wasn't like that much of a mystery.
No, yeah.
I thought it was gonna be more like using powers of deduction,
right,
a little bit more. But like when you get toward the end, and it, like Sherlock Holmes is like, "Oh no, it's right there!" Like it's kind of like what? Like I thought there was gonna be a little more to it, but. It's an entertaining story. Like, I mean, it wasn't a hard read,
Yeah, the bulk of the story is one guy just telling a story to Sherlock Holmes, and there's like one, maybe two, like actual like pieces of detective work, like actual deductions.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting that, so first it's like a doctor basically telling a story of like how his patient got there.
I'm sorry, a doctor?
Is it not a doctor?
The doctor, you mean? That's Dr. Watson?
Oh, I didn't put that together.
He's the writer of all the Sherlock Holmes stories.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. Okay, anyways, I thought it was interesting that Dr. Watson is like telling the story of like the patient that comes in, and then the patient is telling the story of like what happened. So it kind of like switches kind of narration there.
Yeah.
Which was definitely interesting. Yeah, no, I did not pick up that was Dr. Watson.
Pardon the guy. He writes all the stories. Like, where did you think Watson was in this?
I didn't even think about that. I'm telling you, I totally did not did not clock that. So sorry. I was just like, oh, it's this random doctor. Yeah.
Yeah. Sherlock Holmes is barely in the story too.
Yeah. So I was like, this is kind of odd. Like not what I expected, I guess. Because like you're saying, I'm more familiar with the adaptations, and I couldn't even tell you like which adaptations I've like seen over the years. But they definitely, I feel like, feature Sherlock Holmes a little bit more prominently. And it's always more of a, like, really interesting deduction that gets to the point, of what actually happened. So this was, like, totally not, like, what I expected it to be. But at the same time, it was still, like, an entertaining story.
Yeah. This one feels like maybe an attempt at like stretching genre form a little bit.
Yeah.
Or like stretching what you can do with the Sherlock Holmes story. Because it like at points it almost felt like a almost Edgar Allan Poe-esque horror story.
Yeah, with the
Or maybe
gross
I'm not
thumb
familiar
description.
enough with
Yeah.
his corpus to say that, like, Poe-esque, but, like, he's, like, wandering through these, like, weird house, and he's,
Mm-hmm.
the suspicious man who's hired him,
Oh
and
yeah.
he almost gets crushed by a hydraulic press.
It's like so random. Like, yeah, no, definitely. I can see what you're saying. It doesn't have that same like super creepy feel as like a Poe story, but I think like yeah, you definitely nailed it when you said it has those kinds of elements of like yeah, the creepy kind of winding, hallway home, the mysterious like oddly described appearance, you know what I mean? Or I should say, a description of a man who has an odd appearance and very mysterious, like secrets and lies and all that. And then like when they describe like the missing thumb, it sounds really gross, and like that gore kind of definitely points you to like Edgar Allan Poe stuff.
Yeah, like, it, ends up being rather mundane, but it could have veered into, like, kind of a more horror mystery sort of story at a certain point there.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely thought, like, when I finally got to the end, I was like, okay, this is, like, pretty tame as far as, like, detective fiction goes.
Yeah, it's not really, like, the whole thing's not really a mystery either, like...
No, yeah. I was like, okay, I guess the mystery was, like, what was the guy using the hydraulic press for? And I guess the other mystery is, why was he trying to kill him? And the other mystery is, where was the house located?
Yeah, well, it's not really a mystery why was he trying to kill him. It's just like, oh yeah, a guy tried to kill me.
Right.
It's a weird story. I need to tell you it. Like, it's just like, it's not a mystery. It's just you're gonna get revealed that in part of his story.
Yeah, I guess the biggest mystery was the guy, like the character, like fainted and woke up like hours later, but he was so close to the train station when like he knew that he traveled like 12 miles away. And so I guess that was the mystery, like how did I get here when I know I was pretty far away?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I guess I'll do a plot synopsis, and then we'll keep going with this, because we're referring to these plot points, and I'm not sure they make much sense without the synopsis.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, let's get into it.
So we open with Dr. Watson writing his story about the time he brought a case to Sherlock Holmes, and it's a Mr. Hatherley, who is a hydraulic engineer, shows up early morning, missing a thumb, and he's like, yeah, it's a weird story.
Yeah.
And Watson's like after treating him's like, okay, well, before you go to the police about it, why don't you go tell Sherlock Holmes? So we have that first section where we're introduced to Mr. Hatherley. He's talking to Dr. Watson and getting healed, and then we move to Sherlock Holmes's house, where he describes his story, wherein he is an engineer who does not get much business, and this weird guy comes up to him one day. It's kind of like a German guy. He's really thin, and he's very, like, suspicious. He, like, tries to swear him to secrecy. Make sure nobody's around to hear this. You can't tell a single soul. I want you to fix or not even fix, to look at it. My hydraulic press. And, you have to leave at night to get there. Make sure nobody knows you're going. Make sure nobody sees you. He specifically chose Mr. Hatherley because he's an orphan and a bachelor. So, he doesn't know anybody to tell the secret to. And, it comes out that he has this press, or this hydraulic press, the machine to, he says, get Fuller's Earth.
Yeah.
Which he says he bought this plot of land, and he found it, and he's using this machine to do it, and it's not working too well anymore. So he wants them to do that, swears them to secrecy, has to leave in the middle of the night, etc. And even though he's kind of suspicious of this man, he's paying very well. So he's like, okay, whatever. I'll just go along with it. And he does find it weird that he's using a hydraulic machine to, get Fuller's Earth instead of just, like, digging it.
Yeah. And the guy's like, no, like we stamp it into bricks so that people don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Which I looked up Fuller's Earth.
I did as well.
It appears to be like a bleaching clay or like a whitening clay.
Yeah. The Wikipedia page even mentions this story, so...
Oh, yeah?
Yep.
That's kind of funny.
But yeah, so he does agree to the job, and shows up at the train station late. Oh, right, the, man's name...
Colonel Lysander Stark.
But yeah, so... He does this, he goes, he picks him up in a carriage, and they drive for quite a while, and it seems like about 12 miles, but there's like frosted glass on the, pane, he can't see anything. During the middle of the story, Sherlock Holmes interrupts to ask him about the horse.
The horse pulling the carriage that they're riding in.
Yes, which is there's only one horse, and it seems like, not tired, like very, well, a fresh horse is, I believe, the term it's used in this. This comes up later, but he continues with his story, where he says, so eventually we arrive to the house. He brings him in, and while in there, he's like, it's very dark. And he goes inside and says, wait here a minute. And the engineer's waiting, and then, so they go inside, and first, a woman pops out with a lantern out of a room. They kind of have an exchange. It seems kind of tense. Yeah. And she goes back in her room.
That's kind of the creepy, like, Edgar Allan Poe-esque part, because this woman, their exchange is like, she's like warning him, like, leave now.
No. Before that.
Oh, my bad.
Before that, where, the client, goes in and meets a woman there, and they have a conversation.
Oh.
And it's in German.
Okay, yeah.
Like, when he comes in, that's like there's a bolt of light with the woman coming in, and she seems kind of odd and upset. And then, he says, wait here. And so he does, and then the woman comes out again and says, you shouldn't be here, and, nothing good's gonna come of this, like you were saying. You should leave. And because of the pay, he's like, well,
yeah.
And I'm already here.
I like when he gets, like, this foreboding, like, just message, and he's like, nah, I'm gonna stay. I'm gonna see what's up.
Yeah. Well, it's apparently a lot of money. According to Wikipedia, it's, about $7,000 in modern money. Or pounds, rather.
Okay.
For a single job where he's not even, like, repairing the thing. He's just, like, diagnosing the problem.
Which we knew he could use because he mentioned his business is pretty flat. Like,
yeah.
He's started a new business and hasn't had much luck.
Yeah. And so, eventually, the, guy comes back. He has a second guy with him. This guy's English. Also, not much for conversation. They go through the twisting hallways and stairs and whatnot of the house they're in. Until they eventually come to a room that the press is in, and the press is like the ceiling of a room in there, and he's kind of suspicious of this, because he's like, why is this here and not, like, outside where the Fuller Earth is? He's like, oh no, we process it here. Like, the story's not adding up.
Yeah.
So, obviously he's doing this for different purpose, but anyways, he goes in there, and he's, like, investigating the room, and he eventually, like, figures out what's wrong with it, diagnoses the problem, and he's like, this is the problem, here's how you would fix it. They kind of exchange more words about it, and then, trying to remember what happens exactly.
He decides to go, like, back, and because there were some parts of it, like, on the outside he was checking out. He decides to go back inside to look, like, on the press itself, like, what material, like, he saw, like, some kind of metallic looking material on it. So he was, like, trying to see, like, what it was really being used for, because at this point he knows it's not being used, like, for the Fuller's Earth, or he suspects.
Yeah, so that's just literally, he tells them what the problem is, and then goes straight back into, like, because he's obviously, like, he knows it's not for Fuller's Earth. So he wants to say, like, what is actually happening here?
Yeah.
And that upsets his client, who's like, doesn't want him asking questions. And he's like, okay, if you want to know what the machine's doing, why don't I show you?
Yeah.
And he locks him in the room and turns on the press.
Yeah.
So he's about to get crushed by said press. He has a lamp with him, and he kind of like panics for a bit and eventually figures out that because the walls are made of wood, there's like a doorway he can push his way through. And he does that to get out just before the press like gets him. And on the other side's the woman from earlier who's like, follow me, I'll take you out. And they're like running. Eventually they come up to bedroom. Eventually the other two men that let him in there realize that he didn't die. So they're like frantically scrambling to try to find him. So eventually they get to like a bedroom, and she's like, this is the only way out, you're gonna have to jump. And, he does that, but not before the guy runs in, and him and the woman have a conversation about, I don't want this to happen again. Remember what happened last time.
Yeah.
And he has a weapon that he attacks him with, right as he's, like, falling out, and it cuts his thumb off. That's the, thumb that he's getting treated in the beginning of the story.
Mm-hmm.
And he runs off through the bushes, passes out after a time because of the blood loss, and then wakes up at the train station, which he thinks is strange because, he thought he was, 12 miles away from the train station.
Yeah.
And, he talks to the person there, and he's like, nobody knows what he's talking about, so he decides to go see a doctor before seeing the police. And that leads us up to the present moment, where after hearing this story, Holmes pulls out a book where he has a newspaper cutting where some other engineer had gone missing about a year ago. And he's like, yeah, that's probably what happened. This is probably the same people that did this to you. And so they all, go to the police and set out for the town, go to the train to the town where they were at. And they're like, okay. He said it's, he thinks he must have traveled like 12 miles. Let's draw a radius on our map, and it's gotta be somewhere in this location. And there's, 4 people there. He's like, I think it was the north, I think it was the east, I think it was the south, etc. And Sherlock Holmes was like, actually, it's in the center of this map. He just, took the horse and carriage out and then back to make you think it was a longer distance to obfuscate its location.
So, which is pretty smart.
Yeah. Then they go off, and they find the house on fire. They ask the train station guy, hey, whose house is this? Like, when the fires start? And they're like, yeah, so this likely happened when you were, your lantern likely caught it on fire from the press. And, him and the police officer are like, yeah, so we know what's going on here. This is obviously, they're minting their own coins. They're counterfeiting money with the press.
Mm-hmm.
And there's apparently a gang that had been priorly known to the police doing this. And they go to the house, and the people who did this were long gone, and the house is on fire, so they only get some limited information from it. And yeah, that's about it.
Yeah.
Then at the end, there's kind of a moral to the story. Their last conversation, where the engineer is like, I lost my thumb and I lost my payment.
Yeah.
What have I gained? And Holmes is like, well, it's a pretty interesting story to tell at parties.
Yeah, he's like, oh, at least you got your revenge. Their whole house burned down.
Yeah, but no, the last line is
yeah, fun story to tell at parties, basically.
Yep. Which, yeah, is kind of like a little moral of the story, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Like, sorry you lost your thumb, but now you can tell a funny story.
Yeah, again, basically, this guy just tells a story, and then at the end, they, go to not even catch anybody. There's, oh yeah, and also they find out, how he got from place to place. Like, first of all, he was much closer to the train station than he initially realized. And second of all, after he passed out, the woman and the, second man, who is presumably less, murderous, than the German one, helped drag him out there.
Yeah.
And yep, that's the hardly a mystery.
Yeah.
Not really
Not
any
so much
Sherlock
a mystery.
Holmes.
Yeah, I was a little surprised at this one because I was like, oh, I thought it was going to be like super clever. Which, I mean, of course, Holmes was clever, but I'm just kind of like surprised for one. Like, I feel like if you're riding in a carriage, you would be able to feel like if the horse turned around, right? Like, if like you turned around and went the other way, like, would you not be like, hey, are we just going back to where we came from?
I doubt that, honestly. Especially if you have no, like, it's like a rural area, too. It's gonna be a lot of, like, winding roads.
And maybe they didn't just do like a U-turn. They
Yeah,
like,
they took a really
made it
broad
seem like,
U-turn.
yeah, maybe so. That would make more sense. But I thought it was interesting that he was like, yeah, it was about like an hour of time. And, I'm estimating to be like 12 miles. I'm like, it took an hour to go 12 miles back in the day? Oof, that sounds rough.
Well, horses aren't that fast compared to cars.
I guess, yeah, and he said the roads were like really bumpy and stuff
Yeah.
until he got to the gravel driveway. But yeah, that was, like I said, it's an entertaining story. I liked how at like the beginning he was like, yeah, this is back in '89. And I was like, 89? Like, it's so funny because like when we think of '89, obviously 1989, it was like a long time ago. They're talking about 1889, which is super long ago, obviously. But I just think it's funny that, like, they were telling these stories, like, that long ago. And even though it was, like, set in that time period, it's still, like, entertaining today. You know what I mean? Even though we're like, it's not really much of a mystery. But, I mean, I wouldn't have gotten that, like, that he was dragged to that place and it was that close to the train station, obviously. So I guess it was a mystery. But I just thought it would be different, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, there's like, again, like barely any mysteries. Like the detective barely features, makes like the one deduction.
Yeah.
I guess technically two. And there's no like, often there's like suspects, in a mystery.
Right. And they're like, really, they're like, oh, they could be hundreds of miles away by now. Like, okay,
Yeah.
y'all don't even try.
Yeah, there's not even like a mystery as to who did it,
Yeah.
Like we know who does it from the start. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. But, and it wasn't as creepy as I thought, because, like, you had that foreboding message from the woman, like, get out now. And, like, don't do the same thing you did last time, like her talking to the client, And you think it's going to be, like, something, like, more creepy than what it is. I mean, I guess almost getting killed by a hydraulic press is pretty creepy and then cutting off your thumb. But I just thought it was going to be, like, a little bit more, like,
yeah.
more Edgar Allan Poe-y. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, and again, the bulk of the story is just like a retelling of what happened. There isn't like, like usually in these sort of mystery stories, you come up at the scene of the crime, like having already happened, and like, you're just kind of like, oh, well, let me use the clues that are here available, the people that were around to like try to find something out, and this guy's just like telling them flat out, like, this thing happened to me, this crime happened to me. Like, I guess that's, it's not a murder, so.
Yeah, but I also thought, like, they were gonna find, like, his thumb in some, like, weird place, like, that he didn't remember. Like, I thought it was gonna be a little bit more of a mystery.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, why is his thumb there? Like, just creepy.
No.
Yeah, no, it was pretty straightforward. But, yeah, I mean, well written. Like I said, it definitely keeps you entertained, but, yeah, I just thought it was kind of funny and just like an interesting story. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not really what I thought it was going to be, but
No, Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I think it's kind of trying to be stretching.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe there are other ones like this that I just haven't, like, read enough Sherlock Holmes, and the adaptations are influenced by, like, other sort of mystery works.
Exactly.
At least the ones that I've seen. But yeah, this is like a straightforward, like, short story and not like a mystery so much.
Right. And there's so many different Sherlock Holmes stories. It's like, okay, well, maybe they just needed some, like, material to stick in there, It's not as deep of a mystery.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, overall, like I said, good writing. I mean, compelling story, just not what we thought for a detective
Yeah.
genre.
Yeah. I wonder how many, like, times this one's has been adapted. Because
Yeah.
this feels like one you would skip.
Yeah, I definitely one I would skip. For sure.
Especially in, like, a lot of modern adaptations tend to, like, go for, sort of like a procedural case of the week style deal.
Yeah.
And this isn't really a case, so.
No, definitely not. It feels more like one of those stories of like a friend who like drank too much and blacked out. You're trying to help him piece it together.
That's more of a
day.
mystery than what happened in the story, though.
Right, exactly. Like, that's what it feels like.
Yeah, I will say, though, the one deduction that Sherlock Holmes makes that, like, they're, like, sort of a very obvious way to demonstrate that Sherlock Holmes is, clever, is where they have 4 characters at that scene where they're like, which direction did they head in? To say each of the cardinal directions.
Right.
So, like, really hammering home, like, no, you're all wrong. I'm the detective here.
Right. Definitely interesting.
It's just kind of a funny bit of writing to me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's really it. Like, I just, kind of thought it would be different, but it is what it is. Not bad, just different.
Yeah, different in 2 directions there, like we keep hitting on. It's like either turning up sort of the creepiness before it ends up, because there's some creepy parts before it ends up being like, oh no, it's fairly mundane, they're just counterfeiters.
Yeah.
Or, like, you could almost have like an Amontillado-esque, they're deliberately luring people to get crushed by the press sort of deal here.
Yeah, or they're like trying to extract a revenge plot,
Yeah, something. And there's also, you think there's gonna be a Sherlock Holmes story. The detective's gonna solve some sort of, like, mystery, something, instead of just being, this guy told me a story one time.
Right.
I mean, if he never tells the story, the same thing happens. Like, he just doesn't fully realize what they were doing, or how he ended up, like, back at the train station. But they still get away just fine.
Right.
The house still catches fire.
Exactly.
But yeah, decent story. And, there's some neat bits of color for the character, like writing.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I like, I don't remember at what point, but there was like something like humorous that one of them said. And I was like, I think it's just, I don't know why I always think this, but like, I think it's funny when there's like humor and something that was like written so long ago. I'm like, oh, they have the same sense of humor.
I mean, that's
why I would think people 100 and something years ago wouldn't have humor. I don't know.
I was gonna say, like, you can find ancient Greek stories that have humor in them. That's like,
yeah, that's just funny to me that they would like put it into the story. I don't know why. I just always think that's kind of interesting.
But yeah, the characters are well realized for a short story of this type.
Yeah.
The weird, suspicious, very thin German man.
Yeah. I kind of like that. Like the whole, I guess that's what makes it also like mysterious is like, the kind of creepiness, the foreboding. I keep saying foreboding, but you know what I mean? Like, ugh, what's going to happen with this? Like the feeling that he described that he got when the man was just in his office. Like, he knew something was up with him, Had bad vibes.
Yeah, well, he's acting flighty, and he's just like, it's like demanding secrecy.
Yeah.
Constantly like, you have to keep it secret, you have to keep it secret.
Yep, trust the vibes, man. You're getting those vibes, don't do it.
I don't know, if someone pays you, again, what is,
$7,000.
Yeah, 7,000 pounds.
Oh.
Effectively 7,000. I don't know what the conversion rate is, but for a, like, fairly easy job, like, it's a fairly easy part of your job,
Yeah.
And just has, like, the main problem is that he has some, like, weird stipulations about secrecy and when you need to show up, but...
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, I would trust the vibes. Especially after that lady came in and was like, get out now while you still can. I'd be like, all right, peace out, y'all. Bye. Let me borrow that horse.
Look, if he hadn't, decided to go back in and investigate more, so he just had to know what were they doing if they weren't getting Fuller Earth, he would have been fine.
Well, that's the question. Would they have killed him no matter what?
No, I don't think so. I mean, maybe they would have, but...
Maybe.
But seeing as, 2 of the 3 people that were there didn't want him killed.
Yeah, true.
And, the only... he, screams something to the effect of, he knows too much.
Yeah.
He'll ruin us, he knows too much.
Exactly.
So, there's a fair chance. Curiosity killed the cat and all.
Yeah. Could have kept his curiosity in check and got that check. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Which, I feel like's the better outcome in this case, because like he said, at the end he lost his thumb and his payment.
Yeah, but he got a cool story to tell. Ha ha ha.
Yeah, which is kind of a neat way to end it, and I think,
yeah, I like the humor there.
Yeah, and that would, like I was talking about the adaptation earlier, that would definitely be a line to end on in, an episode of a TV show.
Yeah, yeah. Like a one-liner.
Yeah, it's well, you got a cool story out of it.
Yeah, exactly. No thumb, though.
Yeah. Pretty neat ending.
Yeah, I liked it.
But, yeah, I guess that's, everything we have to say about that.
I think so. All right.
Yeah.
Well, this is our first foray into the adventures of Sherlock Holmes on this podcast. So
we might do more of that. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, who knows? Maybe we'll get a better mystery.
Yeah.
The next time.
Maybe we could do 2 even.
Yeah.
Just because we repeated ourselves a lot with this one.
Yeah, we did. We could compare and contrast, if we did a couple. But anyways, yeah. So thanks for listening and join us next time. Bye.
Bye.